My name is Rhiannon, and I am from Suncoast Credit Union. Today, I'm joined by my coworker and teammate, Jose Guevara. He is going to be monitoring the chat box for any questions and just any engagement during the presentation. As Angela mentioned, we will take the time at the end to go over questions, but if you don't want to lose your question, you can just send it as we're going along, and Jose will make note of those questions for us. So with that, I want to be super interactive. I know that it is a Tuesday night and we might be a little bit tired after work, after school, but I want this to be fun and I want it to be engaging. So there's going to be times where I ask different questions, and I just want you to type your answer out in the chat box, and I will have Jose pull some of those to read to me. So first, I want to just thank you for attending this workshop brought to you by Suncoast Credit Union, and we'll be talking about the psychology of spending. So first, I just want to know what made you interested in this workshop. If you want to drop that in the chat while I go over this first slide. But there's a lot more that goes into money than just the numbers. There's actually a deeply emotional component that goes into our spending. I'm sure when I say the word money, some of us maybe have a positive feeling with it. And some of us might have a negative feeling. Just like any other word that we say, we have experiences that might make us feel positively towards something or negatively towards something. But we want to make sure that we are able to regulate our emotions and work to repair our relationship with money. And that is what the goal of this workshop is to do. So I want to ask Jose, has anyone replied to kind of what brought them to the workshop?
Yes, we actually got someone that said, always looking to better spend my money.
Awesome. That's great. Yes, I love that. And that is exactly what we'll do. So the goal by the end of this presentation is for you to be able to recognize some behaviors in yourself and give you some tangible actions so that you can start to change those decisions so that you can better your experience with your money. All right. So to begin, we want to note that there are a lot of factors that influence our consumer behavior. So when I use the word consumer, I mean us with the money, who's spending the money. That's what I mean by consumer. So these factors sometimes make us act not in our best interest. So we might spend money that we didn't really even mean to spend or want to spend. And now we'll know how to identify and kind of combat that. And we want to understand why we buy so that we can make better choices in the future. So,
And
yes.
before you move on, I did get someone that did reply to your last question.
Okay.
And this will hit close to home. They said, need some help trying to do Dave Ramsey's program and struggling.
Okay. Okay. Yes. So, we will be talking about just different methods throughout the program because ultimately there's no one size fits all solution to personal finance. So whether you get your advice from YouTube or from other finance gurus out there, there's always stuff that we can take and there's always stuff that we may need to modify in our lives. So you're in the perfect place for that. Thank you for sharing. All right. So when you're making a purchase, do you ever, and you can answer this in the chat, do you ever kind of wonder like, why did I buy that? Or maybe you're looking back at like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I spent that much money on something. Well, psychologists have found that there are several forces that govern our consumer behavior and cause us to make the decisions that aren't necessarily rational or in our best interest. So a lot of people spend to the point where we maybe get into debt or we're unable to save. Understanding why we buy what we buy can help us make smart decisions in the future. And that's exactly what this workshop is focused on doing. All right, so right now, this is the first step is us evaluating ourselves. So what this is a little questionnaire, and you don't have to actually answer this in the chat, or if you want to, you totally can. But these are some questions that I want you to ask yourself right now, and maybe share with someone if you're sitting next to someone in real life. So the first thing is, what type of products and services do you enjoy spending money on? Okay. Personally, I love spending money on going out to eat. So that's one that always trips me up in my budget. So I want you to think about, what is that thing that you like to spend money on? And Jose, if you see any answers, feel free to let me
They just replied, they said food, gardening,
know. Okay.
activities for children,
Awesome. Yes, yes.
expensive computers. That's the
That's
story of my
Jose's
life.
thing. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so the next question is, why do you think you enjoy spending money on them? So remember, I said that I like to go out to eat. Why do I enjoy spending money on that? Probably because I don't really like to cook that much, but also because typically that means that I get to spend time with people that I care about when I'm at a restaurant. So it's just, you're sitting there and you just get to have conversations, and I really like that. So I think that it's the convenience of it and also the quality time of it. Did we have any answers for this question, Jose?
Making memories, kids and me. It's my
Yeah,
hobby.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
things like that. I like my home to look nice.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So we're identifying the why. And then I want you to think now about some ways where you're a good spender. So maybe you plan ahead for things, or maybe you like to set a savings goal so that when you hit that goal, you can buy the thing that you really want. Or maybe you track your spending. So I want you to think of that. And then I want you to think about the habits that you would like to change. So maybe you recognize, hey, I actually do buy things impulsively a lot. Or hey, maybe I should start planning a little bit ahead. And then start thinking of how you can change that. So this is your little self-evaluation. As we shared before, this will be recorded and put on YouTube. So if you want to screenshot this, or share in the future, I definitely encourage you to share your answers with an accountability partner. So whether that's your friend, or maybe someone who you live with. It's very important to share these things so that you can start working towards um, changing some of them. All right, so the first element that we're going to talk about is advertising. So the purpose of advertising is to get you to buy something. A really common tactic that advertisers use is to appeal to our fears or desires. So a lot of times we'll see advertisements that are like, quick, if you don't buy this in the next 24 hours, it'll never be this cheap again. That kind of plays to our fear. Or maybe we see those advertisements that are like, hey, if you have this computer, everyone will like you and want to be your friend. And that goes to the desire side. A lot of people claim that their product can provide you the image or the lifestyle that you really want. So another example is commercials with baking products show happy, loving families. We see that all during the holidays, all those tear-jerking grocery store commercials. I'm not going to lie, I've already had to break out the tissues at least twice, and it's only November 9th. So, but yeah, it's really to appeal to our emotion, right? So it's not that we want to be, we think that we're maybe immune to ads, but sometimes they can sway us towards certain products. So what do we do? It's hard to avoid advertisements, especially now. Like, even I switch over to mostly streaming services, but there's advertisements in most of them, or maybe on Instagram, on Facebook. We're constantly hearing advertisements on maybe a music app that we're listening to, or watching them on YouTube. And we're not immune to them, but we can become aware of them so that we don't maybe fall prey to some of these tactics.
We did have some people reply and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's a limited edition," or "You deserve this."
Oh, yes, that's definitely something that we see a lot in advertisements. And then we maybe even see it play to our emotions too, like, oh, you have to buy this so that your loved one knows that you care about them. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And again, you can't avoid advertisements, but you can separate your emotion from the value. All right, so the next one, keeping up with the Joneses, or as nowadays, keeping up with the Kardashians. So society defines success in part by like how we look and what we own. And it's not really surprising that people are tempted to buy things that we don't really need to appear well off, especially when others around us seem to have more. This type of spending is typically called keeping up with the Joneses. So while it used to be that the Joneses were like the neighbor, now we're competing with people on social media, right? It seems like every time you refresh your feed, you're seeing someone with maybe a new car or a bigger house or a fancy purse. And maybe you never even cared about bags, but now you see that someone has a fancy purse and it kind of makes you want one. So I want to ask a question. Has anyone ever felt pressure to keep up with anyone? You can drop it in the chat. I know I have.
I definitely have as well. Apple gets me every year.
Oh yeah, that is the perfect example because how there's been so many times where it's like, "Oh, you don't have the iPhone 39?" I don't know. I'm just making up things now, but that is definitely a common thing.
And we
Um,
have had some people comment and say that, yes, they felt that way already a couple of times.
yeah, or maybe your kids, has anyone, maybe your kid has come home from school and said, "Oh my gosh, I need to have XYZ because my classmate has this." Yeah,
We
definitely.
had someone that said, "Not me personally, but struggle when my daughter feels left out because of we do not have the same things."
Yeah, and that's really hard. That is really hard. So we definitely don't we can't win in this game, right? Because even no matter what, getting more and getting more and getting more doesn't necessarily solve these problems because there's always someone with greener grass, as the expression goes. So it doesn't mean that it's a bad idea to buy luxuries, but you want to be conscious of what you buy and the reason why you're buying it. So are you buying it because this is something that you and your family can genuinely benefit from? Or is this something that you saw someone with and you feel like that will make your life better if you have something better than them? So the other solution to this is that whenever you do buy luxuries, you want to save for them, right? You don't want to go into debt to keep up with this standard of living. You want to be sure that you're saving and making those purchases in cash when possible, instead of just throwing it on a credit card. Awesome. So next, we want to examine our spending habits. So each day we're faced with hundreds of choices, and it's impossible to consciously think of all of them. So this is why we adopt spending habits. So for example, when we're on the way to work every day and we just want to swing through that drive-through to grab the coffee instead of waking up a few minutes earlier to make it ourselves, or just other things like buying a candy bar at the vending machine at work. There's these little habits that we build and we don't even really realize that we're doing it until we look back. So let's see. You have to examine if those habits are affordable for you and also if they're worth it to you just emotionally as well, right? So an example of something that I've done before is I took a month's worth of expenses and I looked at my bank statement and I was like, okay, so I I've spent all this money, but where has it been going? And I found out that one month $60 had gone to a gas station, but it wasn't for gas because it was small amounts each time. I was like, that's very strange. Um, so I chatted with my husband. Come to find out, it was really he just grabbed a banana and a coffee on the way to work every day from a gas station, and then suddenly $60 in the month was spent just on coffee and a banana. I'm like, whoa, okay. So let's just buy bananas at the grocery store and let's make coffee at the house. Now, I'm not an angel either. I fall victim to all of the specialty holiday drinks at insert large coffee chain here. I already am on the prowl for the newest flavor, but it's about being conscious of those decisions instead of just like blinking and seeing how much you've spent and it kind of being shocking, right? And then making those swaps where when you're able to, right? So if you do know that coffee's your downfall, maybe we start getting fun flavors to make at the house, getting the whipped cream to make your own frappe at the house, or getting a coffee machine where making this small investment now ends up helping you in your budget in the long run. The same thing goes for lunch. The same thing goes for any other habit that you've developed. And then you need to determine if the needs are real or perceived. So again, I'm going to keep using coffee as an example, but like, do you really need this fancy drink, or do you just want it? And it's okay to want something, but you want to be able to distinguish the difference between these two things, especially as you're creating your budget. A lot of times wants can mimic needs. Like for example, we need to eat, but we don't need to eat at a restaurant regularly. Cool. All right. So next we'll be talking about impulse buying. So with a simple yes or no in the chat, have you ever impulsively bought something?
We're getting a lot of yeses.
Okay,
And
that's
I
what
know
I
I'm one of
figured.
those.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I too am one of those people too who falls prey to the impulse buys. Um, so I want you to think about how you feel after. Typically, right at the moment, it feels really good, but normally about the second day or third day, when you're looking back at the money that came out of your account, you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that I was actually spending that much. We know that impulse buying isn't great for our wallet, but it's really hard to resist. If you find something that you like unexpectedly, and when you're going shopping at the supermarket or whatever, it's easy to just want to throw it in our cart and buy it right then. Um, you know, maybe that's that magazine at the front of the aisle. I mean, or maybe it's the candy at the front. That's normally my thing. I'm like, oh, I really want a Reese's peanut butter cup when I'm at the checkout line. But it's not as common for us to spend money on like impulsively buy staples that we need, like milk or other things like that, because those are normally in the back of the store. All the stuff that's easy for us to buy is at the front of the store, those little add-ons. So research shows that the longer a person stays in the store, the more likely you are to make an impulse purchase. So there's a lot of things that you can do to be a quick, focused shopper. So a few examples are making a list. Just to be honest, I personally am one of those people that list does not work for. So there's other creative solutions where there's things like grocery pickup, where you make you make your cart of stuff online, and then you just pull into the parking space or you walk up to the front and you pick up your groceries. And that's really helpful if you're trying to stay very strict to your budget, because now I'm not roaming up and down the aisles of the store convincing myself of things that I don't need. Same thing goes, especially around holiday times when we're shopping as well, right? A lot of times we fall victim to the, oh, but they'll also like this, so I'm just going to get them this too. But being focused is good. I saw you unmuted, Jose.
I was gonna say, so are you telling us that going to Target without a goal isn't a good thing?
sometimes going to Target with a goal is hard to stay in your budget because it's just there's so many appealing things. And especially if you've ever noticed, it seems like all of the coolest stuff is always at the end of the aisle where you see it when you're walking past. So even if you're trying to be good and skip those impulses, it ends up being a little bit difficult.
We even had
Um,
someone mention that using shopping as entertainment can cause impulse buying.
Oh, yes, yes. There have been many times where I'm like, "Hey, I'm bored and I just want to go to this store over the weekend." And then suddenly you end up buying stuff that you weren't planning for just because you were trying to kill time. So that's a great example. So another thing you can do to combat this is shopping alone if you're able to do so. Uh, I know that it's hard, especially us with children. You want to be sure that you set boundaries as well with your children because I know that when you're up and down the aisle, it's can I get this? Can I get this? Can I get this? And it's like at this point, sure, like yes, if you're good, you can get this. But ultimately that's still an impulse. But another way that you can incorporate your kids into your shopping trip is by giving them a little bit of autonomy on what they can help you with. So, for example, if you are planning on getting fruit anyway, and you know that you have $5 or $10 to spend on fruit, then maybe you ask your child to help you pick out the fruit and let them know that there's only $10 and see how much they can pick out for $10. That shows them that there's the boundary of the budget, but also lets them understand a little bit more about what goes into making these decisions. The other thing that you can do to combat this is if you know that you tend to be an impulse shopper like me, try to budget some money for your impulses. So maybe that's $10 a check, maybe that's 20, whatever number you're comfortable with, where it's like, hey, this is an amount where if I see something that I want and I hadn't planned for it, I already have this saved so I can buy it. So if you fall for the infomercials, my mom is a huge as seen on TV person. She's always telling me about a commercial that she saw of something that she wants. So I'm like, okay, well, you got a budget for that because you can't keep buying all these things online without preparing. But we all fall victim to it in our own ways. So making that a part of your budget is the best thing that you can do. This is the one that really I relate to probably the most, and this is bargain hunting. So a lot of people love to buy things on sale and they love to tell others about it. If that's you, say, that's me in the chat because I need to know I'm not alone here. But getting something 75% off is an accomplishment. Like, saying like, hey, I got this for 75% off. I got this for $2 or whatever. But only if you had planned to buy it in the first place. So looking for sales is a great cost saving measure for products that you were already looking or planning to buy. But you're not really saving money if you bought something impulsively just because it was on sale. So when you're tempted to buy discounted items, ask yourself if you really need them and try to remember to focus on the cost, not on the savings. If you weren't going to buy it anyway, the best bargain is to just not buy it at all. So
I will say, Rhiannon, you are not alone. A lot of people
okay.
say, that's me, that's me.
Good. Yeah. So it's great to find things on sale, definitely, but find things on sale that you were planning to get anyway. Awesome. Okay, so retail therapy. I imagine we've all, and you don't have to answer this in the chat if you don't feel comfortable, but I imagine that we've had a time where maybe we felt down or maybe just felt kind of blah, and decided to cheer ourselves up by shopping or by spending money. A lot of people engage in that and we call it retail therapy. In fact, research shows that shopping increases the level of chemicals in your brain that regulates happiness. However, the happiness that buying provides is usually short lived, and the problems that result from overspending cause guilt and stress. So maybe you went to the mall because you weren't feeling great and you bought a bunch of stuff and you felt really happy when you bought it. But the next day, when you're looking at your statement, or the next day after the newness of the clothes wears away, and you realize what you've done, you might feel guilt and shame and go right back into that cycle of feeling blah. Um, so it's really important for you to resist that urge when you're feeling depressed, but instead engage in mood boosting activities that are free, like exercising. I mean, I'm not huge on that, but going for a walk, or um, yeah, or spending time with friends and family. And then ultimately, if you feel like you're having some difficulty controlling this, there is no shame in that. Just be sure that you consult a therapist or consult a professional to get some help in this area. Awesome. All right. So, money as love. A lot of times we try to show our love for others by spending money. Has anybody here ever bought a gift for someone to make amends for something that you felt guilty about? And this doesn't have to be like a super dramatic thing, but maybe you bought your kid an ice cream cone because you yelled at them, or maybe, I don't know, you bought your coworker something because you yelled at them. I think I've done that for Jose before. I've been like, hey, do you want this candy bar? I got it for you because I was kind of snippy earlier. Am I the only one?
You are not the only one.
Okay.
We even have yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Um, so also I want you to think deeper into that. Have you ever been worried that maybe a loved one would be upset if you didn't get them an expensive gift, or that they wouldn't forgive you if you didn't get them a gift? Um, or maybe you've lent money to someone because you felt like you would let them down, you couldn't turn them down or let your family member down. So periodically buying gifts or spending money on loved ones is perfectly normal, but you do not want to drain your wallet to buy love. No one, um, nowhere does trying to purchase things equal making someone care about you. Not only does trying to buy love not work from a relationship point of view, but you shouldn't sacrifice your financial health for others. So I'm going to tell you that right now, and I'm going to repeat it. You, person on the other side of the screen, should not sacrifice your financial health for others. Okay? Like, this is me giving you permission to let that burden go. We can be helpful to others. We can serve other people. We can provide them advice. We can provide them resources, but we do not have to sacrifice our financial health. And what I mean is, don't take food off of your own plate. Make sure that you and your family are taken care of before giving money to others. Generosity, totally encouraged, but you want to have planned generosity. You don't want to do that at the expense of your basic needs not being met. So I want to be very clear with that. Again, if you buy a gift, you want to start thinking about making sure that it's thoughtful. So some people prefer thoughtful gifts to expensive gifts. So maybe it was, again, your favorite candy because you know that that person was listening to you. Or maybe it's your friend who had a baby. Instead of getting an elaborate gift, it's just bringing over some dinner for them. Or maybe it is cleaning up the house for your loved one, or just spending time with your kid, taking them out to play wherever they want to play at. There are different ways to give thoughtful gifts. So now I want to ask y'all to drop in the chat if you have any suggestions of low cost thoughtful gifts that you want to share with other people. And while you do that, if you're a giver who always feels the need to outstretch your hand to friends and family members, recognize that giving them money sometimes might do more harm than good. And just remember, like, why would they learn how to budget if you always give them money? So sometimes the best thing that we can do is give people knowledge, right? So maybe it is just as simple as sending this link to the webinar, or giving them those free resources online, or other YouTube videos that you saw, or just sitting and helping them with their budget and letting them know, like, hey, I don't have it all figured out either, but we can work on this together, but I'm not able to give you money at this time. And setting that boundary is perfectly okay. Do
We
you have
had some
anything in the chat?
people say homemade crafts, baking, giving your time, cards, making a candle, or even taking a walk.
Yeah, those are all awesome gifts. I love that. I love those ideas. And how much more meaningful is it when someone does something that they know that you care about, or they made something for you versus just buying it? Awesome. All right. So people a lot of times focus more on today than tomorrow. In many cases, that's sensible. Filling an empty refrigerator is obviously more pressing than saving for a family vacation 5 years from now. But sometimes we put our immediate desires over our future important needs. So let's say that you have $100 in your pocket. You can either spend it on a fancy meal or put it into savings. If you spend it on the meal, you'll enjoy it today, but if you put it in savings, you have to wait. So naturally, it's more appealing for us to spend it on the expensive meal. It can be hard for us to save for things that are far off, like retirement. We tell ourselves that we can always start doing it tomorrow, but tomorrow comes and then we tell ourselves that we can do it tomorrow. And then suddenly we look and it's been years. So as a result, a lot of times we don't save up enough to meet our goals. So it's important for us to really prioritize savings in the forefront now, and put pictures of your goals on a refrigerator, in the wallet. I tell people this all the time, that you should do a dream meeting. So maybe it's a dream meeting with your family members, or a dream meeting with your spouse, or a dream meeting with your partner, and just making sure that you talk about what your big goal is, and you allow yourself to just have your wild dream of whatever you want to do. And then you work together to come up with steps to achieve that dream. So if my dream is to go on a month-long vacation somewhere, then I would need to figure out when I want to achieve that, and then how much it would take to do that, and create an equation of just the amount divided by the number of months until that goal, to figure out how much I need to be saving each month to achieve that goal. Same thing goes for anything that you want to do. Maybe your goal is to pay for your kids' college, or maybe your goal is to, when your kid graduates, to be able to get them a gift. So you can do that math. Or maybe you're a student and you want to go to prom, or you want to go to homecoming and do XYZ. Then you would be able to do that same equation of how much it costs divided by the amount of time, to figure out how much you should be saving each month. It's best to, of course, keep your money safe in a financial institution. So just a little recap, in case you missed the first session that we did, but Suncoast is a credit union, and credit unions are not-for-profit financial institutions. So we have all the same stuff that banks have, but the difference, since we're not-for-profit, is that our interest rates on our loans are typically lower, and then there's higher yields for our savings accounts. So whenever you are looking for things like a money market or a certificate of deposit and different savings products like that, be sure to check into the rates at your local credit union. And then same thing whenever you're ready to get your car loan or your mortgage, which is a house loan, check the interest rates at a credit union. because as a member of a credit union, you're actually part owner. So it only takes $5 to become a member at Suncoast. You have to live, work, worship, go to school in one of the counties we serve. Hillsborough is the county where we were founded in, so you are covered since you're here. And then it's very simple. You can do it online, or if you're looking to do it for your child, you can go into a local branch to do that. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to talk about credit. So the availability of credit can make it super easy for us to overspend. In fact, research shows that people spend more when they use credit instead of cash or a debit card. So I want you to answer if you feel that this is the case with you. Do you feel like it's easier to swipe your credit card than maybe use cash or a debit card?
We're getting yeses in the chat, so
Yeah. It definitely is. So credit allows you to buy something today without having to pay for it right away. If you can't pay off the balance in full before the bill comes, you have to pay interest. So this is one of those pieces that a lot of times we don't get told about, right? When we first sign up for these cards, or when we first are at the front of the store and they tell us about these credit cards. We want to make sure that we're paying off the balance each month in order to make credit work for you. Plus, you have to deal with making the payments each month until the balance is paid off. The way that credit cards are designed is that if you're only paying the minimum, it's going to take a very, very long time to pay off the card. So even if you can't afford to pay off the balance, just a good rule of thumb for you to start seeing actual progress being made towards repaying off your credit cards is paying more than that minimum. Because if you're only paying the minimum, sometimes it can take anywhere from 10 to 15 years to pay off even balances as low as $1,000 if you're only paying the minimum. Using cash or debit card for most of your purchases can really help you be a thrifty shopper. But again, you don't want to avoid credit completely, because credit is important, especially as you're trying to achieve bigger goals like home ownership and vehicle ownership. Credit is a useful, again, tool to get you where you're going, but it can be very easy to mismanage and get in a little over your head. And just to be transparent with you, that is something that I did. I was someone who graduated high school and I didn't know the difference between a credit and debit card. I didn't know that credit meant you had to pay it back. And I definitely didn't understand interest. So when I got offered a credit card at the age of 18 in the front of a store to get a discount off of my purchase, I applied for it, and then suddenly I racked it up, didn't realize how much debt I was truly in, and then spent my younger 20s trying to pay off that debt. So that is something that you want to start discussing if you have high schoolers in your house right now. If you are a high schooler, you want to be sure to research that. And then if you're currently in credit card debt, don't lose hope. Just make sure that right now that you try as best as you can to pay more than the minimum. And then once you have your credit card paid off, just use it for little things that you can pay off each month. So for example, if you already have a subscription anyway, maybe have that go to your credit card and then just pay that off each month. That way you're building credit without carrying over a balance and without having to pay interest.
we had someone actually mention in a chat that they decided to go to K's and bought everyone diamonds for Christmas.
Wow. I wish I knew you around Christmas.
Yeah, I wish I was in your family.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a very generous gift. All righty. Oops. Next spot. Okay. All right. So earning money takes a lot of time and effort. If you go to work, then you know that. You get paid a wage for your work, and you want to make sure that you spend your money wisely by being a conscious consumer. So before you open up your wallet, you want to ask yourself these questions. One, will I really use this product or service? Will I really? No. Like that's me with gym memberships. I always get a gym membership and I never go to the gym. So that's an example of a product or service. Next, you want to ask yourself, what are my motives for making this purchase? Again, thinking, am I making this purchase because I think that it will make someone like me more? Am I making this purchase so that I look better to my coworkers or to my friends or to my neighbors or to the other moms or dads? Um, am I making this purchase because I'm sad and I'm trying to make myself have a better mood? Am I making this purchase because of maybe a lack that I felt when I was younger and I don't want to feel that way now, or I don't want my children to feel that way now? These are important things to ask yourself. Sometimes the answer might hurt a little bit, and I want you to know that that's okay, and that that's really the first step to being able to find yourself financial freedom, is being able to recognize some of these things in ourselves so that we can begin to change them. 3, do I own anything that provides that same use? So before you get that fancy Steam Mop 3000, check your check under your closet and see if you already have just a regular mop that could work. Um, did I feel a need for this item before I saw it in the store? What are the financial and emotional costs of the purchase, and can I really afford it? So again, am I buying something where I'm going to feel bad about it just in a few days because I actually didn't have money for it? Can I get a product or service for less elsewhere? Like maybe you can start going to a cheaper nail salon or a cheaper barber. And by thinking about your spending, you can get what you need and enjoy it without the post shopping suffering blues. So, a lot of people cringe at the word budget because you feel like it's restriction, but budgets are really freeing, because if you know that you had planned to spend $50 at the store and then you actually spend $50 at the store, you feel so much better. Or if you planned a vacation and you actually just spend the amount that you budgeted for, it makes you feel so much better than, swiping your card and just being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to deal with this later.
Had someone that say, "Do your nails at home."
Yes, yes, definitely. And if you like to do your nails, for example, that was one thing where as I was evaluating my budget, I was like, you know what? I don't really care to have my nails done. I chip them all the time. So I just stopped getting my nails done altogether. While I'm probably one of the only few people I know who doesn't have my nails done, it doesn't bother me. But then there's other things that I do like to spend money on, and now I have more money to do those things, or more money to put on debt. All right. So with that being said, this is the slide to Balance, which is a company that has a bunch of great resources. You can see on Suncoast some more resources from them, some of our website, suncoastcreditunion.com. But now I want to open up the floor to any questions that we had come through the chat, and I will stop sharing my screen.
We just had one question come in. It says, what age should you open a credit card?
Okay, that's a great question. So I have a few parts. um, okay, so first, just a little backstory. You are not able to get a credit card at all until you're over the age of 18. So that's the first element. But the second thing is, I always recommend to people, especially as you're looking to get your first card, make sure that you've been saving. So maybe you're on this call and you're 16, 17, and you don't have a credit card yet because you're not 18. Make sure that you start getting in the habit of saving, because the reason why, for example, I fell into a cycle with credit card debt, and why a lot of other people do, is because you rely very heavily on credit for emergencies. So if you have an emergency savings account for emergencies, then when your tire pops, you'll be a lot less tempted to put it all on a credit card, and you would be able to take the money from your savings account. With that being said, once you have a job and once you feel like you're pretty stable in your budget, and good practice with, your saving and your spending plan, then getting a credit card is a good way to build up credit. But again, only charge things that you would be able to pay off the same month. So, for example, if you are out with friends and you decide to get everyone's dinner and it costs $300, but you only make, let's say, $50 a check, you're probably not going to be able to pay off the $300 by the end of the month. So you would want to make sure that you're maybe putting something like, oh, I was going to get this Starbucks drink anyway with my debit card, but now I'm going to use my credit card and then pay it off. Or, oh, I'm going to do Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, whatever else. And it's on my credit card and I'll just pay it off that way. So that is what I recommend to people who are just starting their credit journey.
That same person asked, should you recommend having your child be on your credit card or waiting for them to be on their own?
So, so what you're referring to is an authorized user. So, as an authorized user, the child isn't responsible for payments, but I would probably recommend teaching them the value of a credit card, but having them wait until they're 18 to get their own credit card.
And any tips on saving? Where to hide it so that you're not tempted to spend it?
Yes. So, did you add that last part or was that already in there?
That was in there.
Oh, okay, cool. So what I personally recommend, because I'm the same way, I get really tempted when you see a number in your savings account to use that money, is I actually have two separate accounts. So I have my regular checking and savings through Suncoast, that I use all the time. My direct deposit goes to, everything goes to. But I also have another savings account at a credit union that I don't use ever and that I don't really have access to that much. So what I do is have a percentage of my check automatically go to that account for direct deposit, and then the rest goes to my regular checking and savings accounts that I use all the time for everything. So what's happening is in the background, this amount is building up for emergencies, but I never feel like I'm missing it because I don't notice that it's even building up. And then when things happen, like an AC goes out and I have to have someone come over, I go to withdraw money from that account. And then I replenish that money so that I always stay at kind of the same amount and I'm borrowing from myself instead of putting it on a credit card.
Awesome. The next question is, do you have any tips on how to build credit?
Yeah. So that example I used before is a great way to build credit. Getting a credit card, and if you're having some credit challenges, maybe you aren't being approved for credit cards. There are products like secured credit cards, which is where you pretty much put your own money on reserve, and then you're issued a credit card so that you can start to build that credit. So first, you'd want to get a credit card. And then you would only want to charge things that you can pay back. So to build credit, there's a plethora of things that are looked at that go into a credit score. But one of them is the length of time that you've had a credit card. Another is your available credit versus how much you've been charging. So you want to also make sure that once you get that credit card that you're not maxing it out, because then your available credit would be very small. So, only charging things that you're able to pay back, and making a good habit of that is really the best way to build your credit.
And I definitely second that. Also, we actually have a product here at Suncoast, especially for the young members that are turning 18. And if, as a parent, you do want to help them kind of manage their credit scores and how to be able to manage it properly, we offer a starter credit card. Starts off very small. It's only a $300 limit, and it helps them understand how to manage their credit when it comes to the credit card aspect of everything. So it is something that if there is anything like that that you ever want to look into. I had someone ask, secured credit card question mark. Are there any prepaid credit cards anymore?
So that's pretty much the same. That's pretty much the same thing, secured and prepaid. So again, it's you putting aside a certain amount, giving a certain amount to a financial institution, kind of as like a contingency sort of thing, so that, you know, they are able to issue a credit card so that you can repay with minimal risk to you and to the financial institution. I see one question in the Q&A box. What jobs do you suggest to people under 18? So in Florida, you can have a lot of jobs starting at the age of 16. I think even like Publix and other companies like that have jobs as early as like 14 or 15, if I'm not mistaken. So I recommend you looking into maybe the field that you think you might want to go into when you graduate and seeing if there's any entry level positions for that or any just like internship experiences that you can get beforehand, because of course as you get older and you start to have more bills and you're over 18, your options kind of get more limited to things that can help you afford your bills and help you afford the different experiences you want to have. So honestly, any job that you think would get you on a better path for your future is good to consider. And if you are 18, Suncoast is a great place to work as well, especially maybe if you have a high schooler who's about to graduate. Definitely recommend Suncoast as a place to work because we have things like tuition reimbursement, which are really helpful if you're looking to go back to school. Like right now, I'm pursuing my master's degree, and Suncoast provides full-time employees $5,000 a year of tuition reimbursement. So I'm able to get my master's degree debt-free by just taking a few classes at a time. Cool. Any other questions, Jose?
No other questions thus far.
Awesome. So I will invite Miss Angela back on and
Hello. Thank you so much. That was so informative. And in the background, my executive director, Dr. Lewis, and Mercedes and I are texting back and forth, and we were like, we do that. We weren't answering in the chat. But we were like, we do that. And when you shared that you have friends who always sharing their sales with you, we were like, that's Felicia. You were like, if that's you, say it. And I was like, nope, that's Felita. Always finds a sale and tries to share it with us. And then we're right behind her at the same store, buying it up. But anyway, that was so informative. I'm so glad I recorded this because I am going to send this to all of my friends, all of my family, all of my children, everyone, because we need to understand the psychology of spending. Like you just explained it all. Now I'm going to do better. So thank you so much for your wisdom, your knowledge. It was so helpful. And I have the same sentiments as someone in the chat. Like, we love your energy. So
thank you.
Dr. Lewis, do you have anything to say?
No, well, I do. I just want to say thank you to our partners at Suncoast Credit Union. You've done a phenomenal job facilitating our power hours, the financial literacy strand, and I can't wait to get you back on for the next one. I put in a plug for you all at our Teacher of the Year Connection event that we had today for our teacher leaders. And so we just thank you. And I actually learned some things tonight that I wish I had known like 30 years ago. But I am going to press forward, and I certainly hope that our participants, our families, and our students saw value in what you and Jose brought to our parent education opportunity tonight. So thank you all for partnering with us. We could not do this work with educating parents without you.
Our pleasure. Thank you for inviting us.
In Spanish tomorrow. Don't forget that.
Yes, and we do have the same presentation tomorrow in Spanish. So be sure to connect with Mercedes about getting some more information about that if you have anyone who you think would benefit from that. And Jose will be on there tomorrow with another amazing facilitator, Ashley.
Yes.
And I would like to answer a question that, because two people actually asked something. They asked, where can you get a credit card or secured credit card? Most financial institutions do offer secured credit cards. Suncoast happens to be one of them. And the other question was, does a secured credit card help your credit? Yes, it does help your credit as it does report to the credit agencies. Especially when it comes to Suncoast, we will report them to all three agencies.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, until then, thank you so much. We so much appreciate you, and thank you for joining us. This is a very interactive group. Parents, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And again, Mercedes has put our YouTube channel. This session, if you want to watch it again, will be right there. You'll receive a notification. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll receive a notification that has been posted. And share with all of your family and friends. With that, I like to say good night until next time.
Good night. Thank
night.
you. Bye.
Good night.